Good evening, everyone. Hello, hello. If you haven't seen my face yet before, my name is Caroline Clark, and I'm the engagement manager at Iowa PBS. I hope that you enjoyed those just short clips from the last two episodes that are coming up for the latest season of Finding Your Roots, season 8. And you can watch those final two episodes on statewide Iowa PBS in April 12th and April 19th at 7 p.m. So catch those last two. You'll get to see those full, complete stories of those special guests. I'm so glad that you were here and stuck through with us of those clips. We're now getting to the best part of tonight's event. And I think the Finding Your Roots clips really set the stage for our conversation. So if you're a big fan of the program, or maybe you've never seen it before and you're here tonight just to learn about more about your ancestry or genealogy or how to get started, you're going to enjoy the discussion. So we're joined by three very special guests to give us some insights on topics such as beginning genealogy, DNA, best practices for looking up research online, all those just starting points for how to jump off and get started. So joining us live are Kevin Spire, Theresa Liewer, and Tony Cupp. So welcome to the three of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I want to jump right in for those of you who are not familiar with the Iowa Genealogical Society and hand it off to Tony to let him introduce himself and a little bit about the organization.
Hi, thank you. So I'm Tony Cupp. I'm the librarian at the Iowa Genealogical Society. About us, real quick, we've been around since 1965. We have a library facility for people to use in the East Village of Des Moines, kind of almost kitty corner to the state capitol building. And come see us. Outside of the library, we do classes virtually, mostly virtually right now. And we've got our big spring conference coming up, and other groups, and I really enjoy being the librarian.
And I think you guys have something like 15,000 books and reference materials for that's how people can get started, right?
Right. Yeah, we have I don't have the exact number, but I think it's probably actually higher than that in terms of the number of books we have. And then we've also got a lot of periodicals, journals and magazines for people to use. We've got microfilm for people to use, and that's got Iowa vital records that are of use to a lot of people. We are a Family Search affiliate, so if people use the Family Search website, they can come to our library, and with us being an affiliate, that means that they may have access to additional records online that they wouldn't have access to if they were just accessing it from home. And then we also have the Ancestry Library Edition for people to use at our library, where you can have access to, it's basically the world version of Ancestry.com, but you don't have to subscribe to it yourself.
Perfect. What great resources. Well, the questions are coming in fast. So I want to jump in just with a super kind of basic overview. Kevin, could you answer? Some folks are asking just, how do I get started? What's step one? Kind of like a high level overview if you're interested in starting some research.
Sure, that's a great question, Caroline, and I get it a lot. When I've been teaching a lot of beginning genealogy classes over the past few years, I always tell people that the best place to start your research and documenting your research is to always start with what you know and then expand out kind of in a methodical fashion so you don't get yourself confused and get mixed up. So start out with what you know, and the best place to start, of course, is with yourself. right? You
Sure,
know,
yeah.
you know yourself. And once you have some things about yourself documented, then expand out to that next generation, which would be your parents. And once you have some things documented about them, then expand out to your grandparents and so on and so forth. The thing that I tell people to avoid is avoid the desire to jump branches in your tree. You know, people get really excited, and it is very exciting to research about that ancestor who immigrated to the United States from Europe or Asia or wherever that they came from, and find that story. But what happens sometimes is that if you don't get that firm foundation first, you might find yourself researching someone else's family tree and you haven't made the appropriate connection, and then you'll just kind of burn a lot of time. So start with what you know, and collect that that framework information of name, dates, and places, like a full name, birth date, birth location, marriage date, marriage location if you're married, and then for those who have passed on, their death date and death location. That's the basic framework to start with, and then you can start to flesh it out a little bit more with some more details.
Yeah, awesome. Good tips to start with. You mentioned don't extend too far into your tree. Some folks are asking questions about that. Do I need to travel to Vermont to maybe get information about if I'm hitting a roadblock? Do I have to travel to these far off destinations? Or what advice do you have, Theresa, for maybe folks that are looking for either they're hitting a roadblock or they feel like they have to go far off for their stories?
Unfortunately, we don't need to travel anymore. That used to be always kind of the fun thing. The internet has made just an amazing change in the way we research. We besides Ancestry, we also send people to a place called FamilySearch.org, which is out of Salt Lake City. It is free.
Mm-hmm.
It's nonprofit. They have been microfilming, which now they use digital cameras, original records since probably, I think, pre-World War II. And they have now almost digitized all those, and they're online and they're free. So if you have family in Vermont, you can go online and you can see marriage and death records back into the late 1700s. You can find them in the census records. I do a lot of Irish research. All of the church records, the Catholic parish records, have been scanned and microfilmed. Or scanned and digitized and put online. So we don't have to travel anymore, but that doesn't mean everything's on the internet.
Sure.
You're going to have to give up every once in a while and maybe go to a library or a courthouse or a cemetery or stop by a church and get their information. But no, you can do this from home, and do it very efficiently.
Awesome. One of the questions came from Jody early on, and she was asking a question that I think others were looking for answers to, and it relates to looking online. How do we search Iowa records? Is there an easy site to search death and marriage and land ownership within just looking, if you're starting small and looking in Iowa?
Kevin, you take that one.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Sure. So there's a number of locations you can find Iowa records on. You can find them on some of the websites that Theresa mentioned, like FamilySearch.org. They have digitized a lot of the Iowa vital records that are available for the public to view. Ancestry also has a number of them. And there are some other big genealogy websites that do carry some of those records. So those are some sites that I would definitely check at looking for those on.
Awesome. When folks are looking and utilizing those websites, any one of you, if you have feedback on, folks are just asking the question of, how do I organize all of this? Is it pen and paper? Is it files?
Yeah.
Do I start a Word document? Is there any insight you have about the best way to keep track of the research you find?
Absolutely. And I'm going to jump in here with that one. So In the beginning genealogy classes that I lead for the Iowa Genealogical Society, we talk just about that very detail. Should I use pen and paper? Should I use digital? What's the best way to do it? It really comes down to a preference of what you like to work with.
Okay.
I mean, think about it. We've been documenting genealogy for eons on pen and paper, right? And
Sure.
it still works. It still works if you like to do that type of thing. There's nothing wrong with it. There's also, now that we have computers is a great way to organize your information for genealogy. And there are software tools available that can help you with that type of thing. So we talk about that in the beginning class. And you know, that's something I want to mention here, Caroline, is we do have a beginning class coming up on Thursday, the 7th of April, 6:30 p.m. Central Time. It is a Zoom class, so you can do it from the comfort of your own home. I want to invite everybody to come join. I will be leading that class on that evening, and we're doing something extra special that night. Just for that class, we have some door prizes that we will have available, that the Iowa Genealogical Society will be drawing a name for someone to be awarded those prizes. So come join us. We have fun. We talk about all these types of things, and who knows, you can walk away with some great prizes. It's over $200 worth of stuff that we're offering in this package, which is great.
And
oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say, you can find that on the iowagenealogy.org website under events. We're going to cover tonight, we're going to try to cover as many of the questions as you guys have shared in the comments. So thank you so much. But as you have more, join Kevin next week, and you can maybe between now and then have done a little digging on yourself, utilized maybe some of the resources that we've mentioned, and be able to kind of just get a start on your own research. So
I started to say I'm a little bit of a hypocrite when I teach about beginning classes on organizing. I love to research. I'm not a very good organizer. Behind me, you see binders, though. You know, I have a binder for this branch of the family, a binder for this family. I still have all this paper stuff, but I also use software. And there's multiple softwares out there, Legacy, Roots Magic, Family Tree Maker, Family Search has one that you can do. And some of these you can download and use for free on your computer and try them out and see what happens. And it's a good way to organize. It really is. It kind of forces you to look at things.
Awesome. Perfect. Theresa, there are some questions about, or maybe for Kevin, Winona had mentioned just asking, how difficult is it to find information about those who were in orphanages or maybe through adoption? Some questions about, is it super rare that you are able to make connections, especially maybe in a closed adoption?
Theresa, do you want to tackle that one? I think you might have had a little more experience than I.
Okay, it's first of all, it varies from state to state.
Oh, okay.
And so each state gets to have their own rules.
Yeah.
More and more records are becoming available, and Iowa has joined that movement. So as of January 1st, 2022, any adoptee 18 or over can get a copy of their original birth certificates. Here in Iowa, they at the time of an adoption, the original birth certificate is sealed and a new birth certificate is created for the child. But now you can request a copy of your original birth certificate. And if that person, and sometimes it's like, oh, my father was adopted, my grandfather was adopted, I'm trying to find that information. If the adoptee is deceased, an entitled person, which includes children, grandchildren, grandparents, siblings, and so forth and so on, can request a copy of that as well. So here in Iowa, you go to the Iowa Department of Public Health, just Google Iowa Department of Public Health, open adoption, and they have the forms and so forth and so on. Now, birth parents have the right to put a consent agreement in and ask that their personal information not be revealed, but you can find it that way. Other states are doing something very, very similar. One of the things is that if you're talking very early on, late 1800s, early 1900s, oftentimes there was no formal adoption done. The child was simply taken in. It might be another branch of the family that they stepped in and took, but so you're not going to find adoption records for somebody in 1870. It's very unlikely. Orphanages, that's a whole different ball game. I don't know, Kevin, have you ever, we get copies. There's I can't remember, all of a sudden I'm having a moment. I can't remember the name of the orphanage in Davenport that was created after the Civil War. And it came up into the mid 1950s, I think, maybe. Those records, it was a state orphanage. Those records are evidently over at the Department of Human Services, but most orphanages were private, and those records are private records. And so if you can get an agency to work with you, maybe they will, maybe they won't. They have some privacy issues, and we have to agree to that.
Yeah. Kevin, I think maybe a question for you: if folks have really advanced in their research and they've got some great, they've figured out their tree in the general sense, they've started small, they've gotten big. Is there any insight you have about searching in other countries, getting outside of the United States?
Sure. Yeah. The methodology and the approach of research remains the same if it's in the United States or outside of the country, as far as how you kind of approach your research. The places you're looking for records, of course, is going to change. And really the best resource for that, I think, is on familysearch.org, and you look at their research wiki out there. They have an incredible research wiki that you just put in the search box the area that you're researching. So let's say you had ancestors like I do from northern Germany in the Schleswig-Holstein area. And if you just go enter that region, Schleswig-Holstein, you'll find all kinds of information that will route you to where can I find the birth records? Where can I find the church records? Where can I find death records? When were civil records created and that type of thing, and if there are gaps. So that is a great resource for doing research outside of the United States.
Okay, awesome.
I wonder if I could just say,
yeah, please.
So when you're looking for resources from other countries, keep in mind that other countries have different laws regarding access. And so, for example, this Friday here in the United States, we are looking forward to the 1950 census being made available to the public. In the United Kingdom, they only just got the 1921 census there. Also in other countries, there's different types of records. For example, in Italy, they had a condition of the family type of record that can be used, and it just detailed the people in the family and just little few data points about them. Other countries might have had some weird tax that there might be records for. So there's as many countries as there are out there. There's that many different kinds of resources too.
Yeah, good to note, Tony. Really good. This could be for all three of you. May have a story to share, or at least some knowledge. There are so many comments about what do you do when someone has either a very common name, and so you can't decipher Mark Brown. Is that my Mark Brown, or is that not my Mark Brown? And how, if you find maybe an error in spelling, or how do you determine and make the connection that you're sure?
Yeah. Well, I'm going to jump into the one about the spelling.
Okay.
So one of the first rules of genealogy is if you're hooked to how your surname, your last name is spelled, shake yourself loose of that, because it's going to be spelled
Yep.
all different ways out there. And remember that most of these records we're looking at, they were written down by another person as they heard them spoken to them.
Mhm.
So if they heard it from your ancestor in a very thick Italian accent or Hungarian accent, who knows how it got spelled on the paper when it was written down. And when
Yeah,
you're doing searches, sometimes you need to alter how you're searching so that you can match those alternate spellings. Spelling kind of gets set aside, and you might want to keep a little side list of some alternate spellings when you're doing your research.
Oh gosh, yeah, of course. I wouldn't have even thought of that, but makes total sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then when you're not sure if you've got the right Mark Brown,
Mhm.
what happens is you kind of use a rule of thumb as, does this make sense? Is it in the right place? Is
Okay.
the age, we have to be careful about ages. We have the same issue with ages as you do spelling. Our ancestors could be very creative in how old they are, but is the age right? Is the wife right? Are the children right? Is he, just kind of run a smell test by this. Is this the right Mark Brown? We have an awful lot of people that go astray because they find, oh, this must be my family because the name is right. And and Mary is his wife's name, and that's got to be it. That doesn't work. And you fall in the same name trap. You get yourself, you can get yourself crosswise and spend a lot of time that you didn't want to do.
Yeah.
And also make sure the places are right. If you take and make a timeline for somebody is one thing you can do. And if you find that they moved around a bunch, like at one time they were in this place and then they were in this place and then they were back in this other place, if there's a lot of that, it could be an indication that you're looking at two different individuals.
Yeah.
Got it. I think this is a question for Tony or any of you, because you are active and would have the insight. But Tony, some of the viewers are mentioning, it sounds like there is a special interest group through the Iowa Genealogical Society, maybe an Irish interest group. And piggybacking off that same question, Des Moines is the only location of the library, correct?
Yes, we have just the one location for IGS.
Yep.
There in the East Village of Des Moines. We have, for our special interest groups, we have actually 11 of them. Let's see. So there is Irish, German, Norwegian, African-American, Family Tree Maker Users Group, Ancestry Users Group, Legacy Users Group, Preserving and Publishing Family History, Genealogy Basics.
Yeah, Roots Magic too.
Yep, Roots Magic. And so I'm going to pass it there to Theresa, though. Theresa heads the Irish interest group. So do you
and DNA. We have a DNA interest group as well. And so we used to just meet in the library, but we now, almost all of them are now also reaching Zoom, via Zoom. So we have people join us from all over the United States that are members of the Iowa Genealogical Society. Wonderful. Who are interested in it. We meet monthly. If you go to our website, iowagenealogy.org, you'll see the schedule of when they meet and how to link into it. We, as Tony said, we only have the one location, but the other thing we want to encourage you is there are local genealogy societies all over the state. At one time, almost every county did, but not so much. But some of them are very, very active. I mean, I think of Union County, I think of Story County, I think up in Woodward County, Scott County, Cedar Rapids, and they have monthly meetings and they have programs. And it helps to hang out with people who do this, because they really, you're like, and they'll say, oh, did you try? And you're like, oh, I never thought about that. And their programs are very, very good. So oftentimes check with your library. They'll know about it. If you check our website, we do have a list of them. Some of them are not as active as they used to be. And then if you don't have a genealogy society in your area, start one. Go to your local library and say, hey, would you put the word out? See if there's other people that would like to do genealogy. and do it that way. Because it's not meant to be a solitary, kind of activity as we go through there. You need to have somebody. Most of us have family members that tolerate our genealogy obsession, but there's a lot of eye rolling that goes on. And it's nice to be around somebody that gets just as excited as you are when you find some obscure fact. We have the genealogy happy dance that we do, and it's nice to have somebody join in.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so good to have ideas to bounce off of
Yeah.
and get other directions.
Mm-hmm.
I know this is a question very early on when we were just even talking about the idea of hosting this event. Is that a common question? And we've gotten it in the comments maybe 3 or 4 times already. What if I think I'm related to royalty, or I have notes that I'm George Washington's blank. True, not true? Is there?
I get this a lot in the beginning classes.
Yeah.
And you could be. I don't know.
Yeah.
You might be. I tell people that hold on to those stories. You never know when it might come in handy in some of your research. Maybe you're not related to George Washington, but you're related to the neighbor of George Washington. Could be. That might be something that helps. Or maybe you were related to someone who worked on the plantation that George Washington had, or something like that. So there might be a connection. I have one of those stories in my family tree that I'm trying to figure out, and I've been working on it for 25 years and I haven't figured it out yet. One of my brick walls.
My grandmother was so excited because we were descended from Bishop Asbury, the first Methodist circuit rider in the United States. Well, you want to be related to the famous person because Bishop Asbury never married. And he had one sister who died as a child in England. And so what I finally found was the story that the family had said that my ancestor had met Bishop Asbury, and they talked about it, and they decided family was probably related back in England. But over the years, the story morphed into we are descended from. So I'm sorry. I never told my grandmother. She would have been so disappointed.
Yeah. The game of phone tag with your ancestors.
Yeah.
Well, you mentioned, Theresa, the DNA special interest group. There were a few questions. I took my DNA test. What should I do, or what's next? What should I be doing next?
Okay. What happens is a lot of people take their DNA, do their DNA test, and what they're looking for is, we call it the pie chart, that says I'm this percentage this and this percentage that. And sometimes they're like, that doesn't make sense. It's getting more sophisticated as we go on. This is very early on, but it's getting better in terms of identifying where you are. But for us as genealogists, we use that as a tool, and we're looking for matches. So I go through and I have 4,000 matches of fourth cousins or earlier, or maybe not that many, but a lot. And it helps me identify somebody that might get me back a few generations as we go through. And one of the things I do warn people is sometimes your tests and your matches bring up surprises. And so you need to be aware of that. And maybe you don't want to test for that very reason. So that's perfectly all right. But we laugh about it. That DNA is causing the death of a lot of family secrets that are just like, oh, really? Okay. So we go through that. People often ask me who I should test with. When at our interest group, we kind of steer people first to ancestry.com, because they've got over 20 million people have tested with them. And so you're more likely to make a connection with them. But if you're wanting to test, if you've got European, German, so forth and so on, we might send you to a place called MyHeritage. The thing is, you can test with Ancestry. You can download your test results and then upload them to some of these other sites as well. But MyHeritage has a lot of that. There's one called Living DNA, which is basically United Kingdom. So these are all specialty ones that we go for. But the other thing, I have a great tip for everybody. There's always a sale. So
Yeah.
don't pay full price. There's a sale at Mother's Day, Father's Day, Thanksgiving, Christmas, Valentine's Day, April 20. Oh, it's
Fifth.
coming April 26th. I think that's International
25th.
DNA Day. There's one in August because I guess they haven't had one for a long time. So there's always a sale. Do not buy it. Please don't pay full price. And they're not, especially expensive, but they're out there. So that's it.
Well, if talking more a little bit about the DNA, is the DNA information helpful if no other relatives have taken the same test?
There is a problem if you test with Ancestry and somebody else is tested with family tree DNA, you're not going to see the match.
They don't talk. Yep.
They don't talk, but you can take your Ancestry information and you can upload it to family tree DNA. You cannot
Okay.
take family tree DNA and upload it to Ancestry. Ancestry does not accept anybody else's test results. And
Got
there's a free a free one called GEDmatch, which you can do. So so that kind of overcomes some of those issues as you go through there. But what you're looking for is people who have tested, and you can look at them and go, how are we related? And then kind of work our way through that.
Yeah, and one thing I wanted to add here, Caroline, is that for those folks who have never done any DNA testing before and are curious what the results look like, some folks think that they're going to see that, oh, I'm related to so-and-so and I'm related to such and such, this person.
Yeah.
That isn't what you get. What you end up getting back is information that says this person could be a 4th to 6th cousin. This person could be a 2nd to 3rd cousin. You have to do the genealogy work now to find out how you're connected to that individual. So DNA and the actual genealogy work hand in hand.
Yeah.
They work together.
Yeah.
If the test tells you that you're German, what it's actually telling you is that you share DNA with other people or populations who are found in Germany.
Okay.
So the tests don't know borders. It's people that make the map and
right.
Yeah.
And I have tested with different testing companies, and I get different results. And part of that is their magic number, their algorithms. The other is they have to have gone back to the old country and tested people. And if they have not tested anybody in where your family's from, you are not going to get a connection. But as they're getting more sophisticated, Ancestry now tells me that I connect to people from North Tipperary, which is correct, Northeast County Mayo, which is right, Leitrim, which is right. The Swedish is getting extremely accurate. They're giving you very local parish records. And so, but sometimes they haven't tested in the place your family's from. So you're not going to get a lot of real detail to go with it.
Yeah. Yeah. And a few questions related to the actual testing. Is it safe? Is there one that is safer than others? Does the government now have my DNA?
No. One of the things is privacy concerns come up, and there had been some issues about police enforcement. First of all, Ancestry has never participated in any law enforcement request. You actually have to send your own spit in. They're not going to take somebody else's. The other ones, their default is that you do not participate in any law enforcement matches. You have to opt in to let your DNA be part of any searches that they do. So, and your government, there's laws out there where insurance can't have them. They can't make decisions based on that. But I always smile. I have several tests for my family that I manage. And so I very carefully say they don't want to participate, but mine, I participate. So if I participate, trust me, everybody in my family is effectively participating in the law enforcement search. So, you just need to understand that the cat is kind of out of the bag on a lot of this stuff.
Sure. Yeah. One of our viewers tonight shares that they are African American and Native American. Do you have any advice for BIPOC folks? If where they can get started, they're not finding a lot of stories, they're not finding a lot of information.
I would say that for American, I mean, if they're American, then a lot of the especially Iowa, you know, they can use a lot of the same civil records and things that anybody would. But I would also invite people to try out our African American interest group, which meets at the library on the second Saturday of every month. The
Great.
person that heads that group up, Ricky King, is an outstanding person to ask about African American genealogy. And if you come on the second Saturday of the month, you're likely to see Kevin there too.
Yep,
You know,
I'm the librarian those days.
And then on Native American, again, Kevin had talked about the Family Search Wiki. Go in, do a search in their research wiki under Native American. I mean, whether it's the Dawes rolls or tribal records, there's a lot of information in there. So it can be done. It can be done. It's just might be a little more of a challenge on a couple of them.
Yeah. And Caroline, I want to throw one more resource out there that can help with
great.
both Native American and African American, as well as some others, is a website called Cindy's List. And that's CYNDISLIST.com. And what Cindy's List is it's kind of a resource that leads you to other websites. So if you go into Cindy's List and you look for a category of, say, Native American, then she's going to give you a whole list of websites on there where you can find Native American genealogy information. Some of them require a subscription fee, some of them are free, and she indicates it with a little $sign there, but it's just a link to that website and that resource to find some more information.
And then Facebook, surprisingly, has probably 16,000 Facebook groups that are interested in genealogy and history. And so there's a good chance that you may find a Facebook group that is very specific as to maybe a tribe or an African American location. So, yeah.
I think I know. I have dabbled very minimal into Ancestry. There are quite a few questions about a newspaper subscription or newspaper archives. Is that something that's built into Ancestry.com or another platform? Or is that something that if you're really wanting to look at those newspaper records or archives, do you need to visit a local library? What's the best route to go?
Well, so the Ancestry subscription has 3 tiers. And newspapers.com comes with the top tier subscription. Or alternatively, you can subscribe to newspapers.com on its own. I don't have pricing, but I'm sure it's on the website. And then newspaperarchives.com is a similar website. It's completely separate from Ancestry though, but it's a subscription website. But I would, for either of those, I would invite you to your public library, your local public library, and see if they have institutional access or anything like that. I know some of the libraries have that. And then there's a few resources on the internet to where you can get newspapers for free. The biggest one, I think, is called Chronicling America, which is run by the Library of Congress. And they have newspapers from all the states going back hundreds of years. They don't hit every newspaper that's ever been published. A lot of it is newspapers from the bigger cities, but you know, it's not entirely major cities. So, you know, check those out. And there is the University of Northern Iowa the Rod Library up there has made it to where you can find a lot of Iowa newspapers,
Oh,
digitized,
great.
especially town
The other
ones.
thing I use is a website called theancestorhunt.com.
Okay,
And
I've
what
heard of
he
that.
has done is made a list by state, he goes state to state, but a list of all the free online newspaper. And in Iowa, we are blessed because we have a company in Cedar Rapids that has gotten very active in this. And an awful lot of our libraries have raised the money to have these digitized, scanned and digitized, and they are searchable online. So, I mean, it's like the Kossuth County Genealogy Society has done all of Kossuth County and so forth and so on. So I use the Ancestor Hunt to get into those as well because they're free, and that's always nice. That's always nice.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Mhm.
It sounds like so many resources we have shared. I would like to say to all participants on tonight, we can get those typed up either in the chat or we can send a follow-up email, anything so that you can have those resources at your fingertips. We've shared so many great resources tonight. And I think from my understanding, it sounds like you pick and you choose what you feel like is needed for you. You try a few things out. That might lead you to a few other resources, or you might go to your local library. You might stop in at the Iowa Genealogical Society and ask Tony for help. All those different things are available to you, and you just find whichever one might work best for you.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Awesome.
And then
Well,
we
I
start
think-
you on the slide of into obsession, so it's good.
Yeah. Then you join 5 special interest groups and you never, ever, ever stop. Well, I think we're nearing close to our end time. I am so thankful for all of the incredible questions. I have learned so much. I can't wait to look back through the chat later and see some of that information so that I can maybe get started a little bit deeper on my ancestry. I wanted, before we go, to share one more time about that great free Genealogy 101. Is that what it's called, Kevin?
Yes. We have beginning genealogy, which is Thursday, April 7th at 6:30 p.m. Central Time. You do need to register for the class. So like Carolyn had mentioned, either you can go to iowagenealogy.org, look at the menu bar for events, and under there you'll see a class schedule, which you'll find a link to do that registration. And I think you were also going to maybe post that link.
Yep.
Is that right, Carolyn?
I think Darla's putting it in the chat right now if it's not already in there. So you all should be able to see that and
Yeah,
click
and
on
remember
it.
those free prizes too. Those are good.
And come and learn, especially if tonight was just a dip of the toes into learning. Or, I mean, there were quite a few questions we didn't get to. So lots of incredible conversation. Some really specific questions like my mom in 2002, very specific types. So come and get more detail, get more resources, kind of be able to dive in. But I think that Finding Your Roots is a phenomenal show. Iowa PBS is so proud to have that program. It's a great one to get you interested in, to either learn about other people's cultures and other people's backgrounds and genealogy, but then also find interest for yourself. So thank you all so much for being here tonight for this special event. A big thank you to Kevin, Theresa, and Tony for joining us, and to the Iowa Genealogical Society for being such a great partner through this. Obviously, our audiences have absolutely loved the conversation. The final 2 episodes of Finding Your Roots Season 8 are April 12th and April 19th at 7 o'clock. You can watch that on statewide Iowa PBS, or you can live stream it on the PBS video app or on our website. There are so many ways to find Iowa PBS these days. So please join us at future and upcoming virtual and in-person events with Iowa PBS. Our next, we have a very full spring and summer coming up, but our very next event will be a virtual trivia event on May 2nd. We haven't launched it yet, so you all are getting a sneak peek here of it. It is all things Iowa State Fair. So If you're a big fan of the Iowa State Fair or Iowa PBS's coverage of the fair, that's going to be a really fun event for you to kind of quiz yourself and see if you're the biggest fan. I think that's all we have for tonight. Again, thank you all so much for joining us. iowapbs.org/events is where you can find the information about those events. And one more plug for the Iowa Genealogical Society, iowagenealogy.org is where you can find their information if you're interested in that next class. So thank you all so much and have a great night.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
Thanks.
Good night.